4 things to know if you're retiring with a pension. Let me frame the situation here for us a little bit. So here's the
Please.
deal. And you probably know this, but I'm talking to our audience today. The audience members, did you know that choosing the wrong pension option could literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your retirement? And that's how critical this decision is. Now, the reality, Corey, is a lot of newer people entering the workforce no longer have pensions. However, many of our clients still do have this pension option. And these are conversations that you and I have had over the last decade, thousands of times with people. Now, pensions may sound simple, right? Like, Jake, what's there to know? It's called a defined benefit plan. My employer set it up. There's not a lot of options. It's not like we're talking about a 401k here, Corey. But the key here is that the decisions you make could affect your income, your taxes, and even the legacy you leave to your heirs for decades to come. So again, I'm not trying to scare anybody, Corey, but it's a very big decision, and it's not as simple as some people think.
So what I hear you saying, Jake, is don't wing it.
Right. Don't wing it. Don't wing it at all. So here's the challenge, though. Many people with pensions, they feel a false sense of security. Have you met with someone, Corey, that said, well, I got a pension, so I'm not worried about financial planning or anything else? Have you had those conversations? I want to hear something about that.
Yes, I have.
And tell me a little bit more. Yeah.
I've seen clients that have, especially if the clients have a large lump sum pension option, where people have used that as, and I guess not justification, that's probably the wrong word, but people maybe haven't saved as aggressively for retirement outside of their expected pension. And I think that's where the false sense of security, to your point, can come from.
Yeah, it is a challenge. You're exactly right. And you know, if somebody hasn't done that, so let's say they have very little in their 401k, but they've got 1.5 million in a pension, and that's their plan. And that, by the way, that's not a plan. Just having a pension is not a financial plan.
Right.
And let's say they have a lot of credit card debt and a high mortgage and car payments, and they think $1.5 million is going to just last them for 30 years, and they don't need to worry about it. And I'm here to tell you that might not necessarily be the case. And so that's what we're getting at, is that having a pension could be a false sense of security. And there's a lot of complexity to it. Different payoff options. Do you take an annuity or do you take the lump sum? If you take the annuity, what are your survivorship benefits? What are the tax? How's it taxed? All that stuff is underestimated with people. And again, this is why you and I created Falcon Wealth Advisors, just to help people overcome these challenges or make some really important decisions that are not only affecting them, Corey, they're affecting all of their loved ones as well.
Yep.
And here's the scary part, is that once you choose a pension, most times it's irrevocable. Have you ever had somebody able to unwind their pension decision? I don't know if I have. Have you?
No, not off the top of my head.
You know what's messed up is I've had a company change their pension option after somebody's elected, though, believe it or not.
Really?
Have you ever had that?
Trying to think. Not off the top of my head, but so somebody was collecting a pension and the company changed it?
Yes. I had a client that was getting an annuity payout from their pension, and the company decided to get out of the pension completely and offered a lump sum buyout and basically gave that person a lump sum because they didn't want to have a pension anymore.
Okay.
But here's the deal. Here's the core pain point in all of this, Corey, is that I want our audience to ask themselves, what if I make the wrong call and you can't undo it? So even though the pension or the company may be able to switch, which is very rare, like you said, you've never come across that in 15 years of doing this and thousands of meetings. But what if you do it? What if you mess up? Then what? That's the scary part.
Yeah, it is. That's why it's not just a form that you're filling out, right? It's a big, big decision.
Have you had someone make the wrong decision? Maybe not under your watch or under your advice, but have you ever met with somebody that made the wrong decision?
Yes. And I think it is, the example I would give, Jake, is actually somebody, going back to what we just talked about, the false sense of security, someone that has taken a lump sum pension, that maybe that's not what they made the most sense for their financial plan or for their spending patterns or their spending habits, where, a big lump sum of money comes into an account and then it just starts getting spent down from there. Where I frankly think there's some people that a predictable income stream might be a better way to approach it in their retirement.
Right. My grandpa, he always would tell me he got a pension. He worked at Lafarge Cement. You know what that is?
Yep.
So he got a pension from there for him. And he took the survivorship payout. So he got a monthly check and he lived a long time. And so we would talk about this occasionally. about how he should have taken the single life, but he didn't want my grandma to be without an income stream. So mathematically, you could suggest, and we talked about this, mathematically, you could suggest that he made the wrong decision. However, he needed that insurance. So we both agreed that he didn't make the wrong decision, but mathematically, he might have received more income if he took the single life payout. I remember talking to them about this years ago. So here's the opportunity, though. If you do make a good, I would argue he made an informed decision, though. Like he made the right decision, even though it didn't math. And so
yeah, good.
The key here is if you do make a good decision, you could get increased lifetime income. You could actually lower your taxes by doing the right thing. A good one is, again, knowing that you and your spouse are protected. So that's what he did. And the key here is the ability to align your pension decisions with your bigger wealth goals, like charitable giving or legacy or travel. Or maybe, and I don't condone this, Corey, maybe you want to go to the casino every month and you want to spend $300 a month on gambling. And you know, though, that that's all you have and that's all you're going to do. But you know what? The next month, you're going to get your pension check again and you're going to get reloaded if you don't win.
Gamble it away again. Yeah. I hear
so
you.
I don't condone this, but that's what I'm getting at. Like, it can help you with your bigger wealth goals. Like maybe you want to give $300 a month to your church, or $300 a month to your kids or your grandkids, or you want to spend $300 a month on little road trips, but you know that this pension is coming in. So again, we are a little different in that we don't always recommend the lump sum option for our clients. In fact, I want to share a real world example, Corey, of I have a client that did this.
Okay, let's hear it.
He did a great job. And I'll keep his stuff anonymous, but we talked about it a lot. We did a lot of planning prior to his exit of his company. And he had the option of taking a lump sum, a sizable lump sum. I think it might have been 7 figures, if I remember correctly, or a monthly annuity. But this person also did a good job, and he's single, but he also did a good job of saving in his 401k. So the way we looked at it is he said, look, I've already got, let's say it was 7 figures, just to make it easy. Like I already have 7 figures saved in my 401k. Why don't I invest that in stocks and bonds? And then I also get this annuity. So he took the monthly paycheck, realizing that he didn't have to put as much pressure on me, his wealth advisor, to make him his target rate of return. Knowing that he had to pull that much less from his retirement accounts because he was getting this monthly annuity. So I would argue that's a good example. Now, I might have someone that worked at the same company that has the same pension, that has the same amount in their 401k. They may say, Jake, I want to take the lump sum because I am single. And if something happens to me, that annuity goes away.
Right. Exactly.
So there's no survivorship, or, so again, there's other things you can do. You can buy life insurance to protect that and all those things. But these are some real world conversations I've had where I have clients, Corey, that literally work at the same company that have very similar portfolios, very similar pensions, that choose very different options. And so there's not a one size fits all. This is not a cookie cutter decision.
Not at all.
This is something that you need to not only understand the math and the numbers, but you also need to understand what's important to you. Do you have a real world example you want to share with us?
I do. Yes, Jake. And so this is one where individual had the opportunity to take a lump sum, to take a survivor benefit, single life, lots of different options. But for them, we actually evaluated this in the context of their financial plan. And we looked at what their liability situation was, Jake. And this was one where a client they were retiring. They had less than 10 years left of payments on their home to get their mortgage paid off. And we looked at the financial plan. We looked, what would happen, as morbid as it is, if there was just one spouse around for an extended period of time. They selected the option, Jake, to ensure that they could collect their pension for the first 10 years of retirement, so that even if somebody passed away early, morbid as it is, the surviving spouse would still have an income stream for a period of time to get that mortgage paid down. But ultimately, the longer the actual beneficiary of the pension lived, the more money they're going to receive because they didn't just take a full spousal option. So that's, again, how this actually fit into somebody's plan and how the pension could actually be used to accomplish a goal.
Yeah, I love that. It's called period certain option. And I love that, Corey, because again, you lined this up with their financial plan.
Correct.
So good. That's a good break here for a quick commercial, Corey. So again, thank you to all of our audience for tuning in. Please like and share our content. 5 stars, thumbs up, anything that you can do. We love that feedback because we want to make Uptycs better for you, our audience, and we're here to enhance financial literacy. We also, Corey, have a new offer for our listeners. So in the show description, there should be now a link to a complimentary copy of my ebook, Retiring Right, Smart Steps for Exiting Corporate America, where I talk about pensions and Social Security and all the things as you're planning to leave your company. We are offering that, Corey, complimentary, the ebook version for our audience. How about that, Corey?
Very generous, Jake.
Yeah, so all you got to do is go on the link, check it out. If you have questions, simply email Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com. He's our communications manager. He'll make sure he'll lead you to the form that you got to fill out to get your copy of the ebook. Also, if you have any questions, follow-up discussion topics, anything you want Corey and I to discuss here live on Upticks, please also email it to Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com. Luke is happy to tee that up for us so that we can have a deeper conversation about what our audience wants to learn about, Corey. Anything else, Corey?
Let's keep rolling.
Well, I was going to let you talk about our Instagram. So again, if you want to follow us on Instagram,
I kind of thought you were fishing for it, Jake, son of a gun. Go ahead.
I was going to let you do it.
Go
Corey
ahead.
is Corey Bittner, KC. I am Jake_Falcon_CRPC. Please give us a like or follow on Instagram if you want more content out of me and Corey. All right. So getting into the topic of our show today, Corey, the framework. Okay. So I want to break down the 4 key things to know if you have a pension at your company. And I want to hear from you on each one of these. We'll go one by one here. So number 1, which we've already alluded to a lot of these, is the payout option. Do you have an option for a monthly annuity versus a lump sum? Now, there's pros and cons to both of these. So, Corey, why don't you go over the pros and cons of the annuity?
So I think for the monthly benefit, the pros to it, Jake, if somebody's taking an annuity as their pension, is that you're going to get a predictable income stream each and every month. One of the downsides, though, is it's not typically going to adjust with inflation. So as stuff becomes more expensive over time, that monthly pension that you get is going to be, you're not going to be able to buy as much stuff with it. So again, there's predictability, but there's also some risk.
That's right. So with the monthly annuity, I like it. The pro is you get a predictable income stream, typically for the rest of your life. The con is sometimes they do have an inflation attachment, but a lot of times they don't, Corey, you're right. So it might not keep up with inflation. Also, you really can't control your taxes, I would say, on that one. Like, you're going to have this income hit your, 1099,
Taxable
whatever,
income
every year, taxable income. You can't control it. It's happening. There's nothing you can do to change that.
And
Now,
I guess
the
longevity there too. Yeah.
Yeah. So the lump sum, though, the pro is you fully separate from the company. That's another con, actually, of the annuities, that you're still attached to the company for the rest of your life. And if the company goes under, you might lose some of your pension. So the lump sum is the pro, is you're detaching from the company. Typically, you also get greater tax flexibility because you can control if and when how much money you pull out. The con, though, is there is risk. Like, you've got to invest this money and generate a rate of return that hopefully would be at least as much as that monthly annuity, if not higher. So there's risk there. So I would say the lump sum is more risk on your part, but the pro is that you're detaching from the company. Now, all this is assessed based on your age and other factors in your financial plan. So again, the payout options is actually where we typically start. Like, I like to ask my clients, Corey, what do you want to do more of and why? Because most people that work at a company that get a pension, they've talked about this with their coworkers, right? However, I would not suggest you do what your coworkers do, but they typically know, and they're already leaning a certain way. And I want to unpack why are they leaning that way, and just to make sure we go over the pros and cons with both. Because as fiduciaries, Corey, it doesn't matter to us. We want to do what's in the client's best interest. I mean, that's what really matters to us.
That's right. And I do think, just to quickly add to that, the pension or the lump sum and the pros and the cons there, Jake, obviously the variable of longevity is not one that we know. But whether somebody is single or whether they're married, what their spousal options are, like there can be pros or cons to taking the annuity if it only is paid out for a certain period of time.
Yes. So that actually goes into my second piece of the framework,
sorry,
which is good. No, you're good. The survivorship benefits. So what happens to the pension if something happens to you or your spouse or your family? So again, with the annuity, that's a dangerous one, because if you take the single life option with an annuity and something happens to you and you have no other insurance to protect you, well, your spouse will lose all of that pension. And that's very scary. And that's where I was talking about at the beginning of the show, Corey. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially lost. And then with the survivorship, you do that, but like I talked about with my grandpa, you get a lower benefit typically. So that's a tough one there, is that the survivorship benefits. Whereas with the lump sum, if you roll it into an IRA, now you can list out 20 beneficiaries to this. And the money truly can be a legacy, and you don't have to worry about your survivorship election when you retire. So again, the survivorship is most critical. Well, it's critical in all of them, but it's very critical. If you choose that monthly annuity, you've got to understand what you're doing and why. If you do the lump sum, just make sure you roll it over to an IRA. More than likely, you don't necessarily have to, I guess, but I would recommend you consider that. And then make sure that IRA has beneficiaries listed. The worst thing you can do is think you're doing the smart thing with rolling it over to an IRA, Corey, but then you have no beneficiaries listed on that IRA.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Purpose. Yeah. Let's talk about the number 3 then of the framework, your tax implications, Corey. Talk about how pension income is taxed.
Typically, it's fully taxable. So it's treated as, it's treated as ordinary income on someone's tax return. So if they have a pension in retirement, maybe they have Social Security benefits in retirement, all of that can ultimately add up to taxable income. That may not, well, I shouldn't say that it prevents flexibility, but you might just have a floor for income to work with in retirement that might be set a bit higher.
Right. If you're getting $4,000 from your pension and $3,000 from Social Security, maybe your spouse is getting $2,000 from Social Security. Well, now, Corey, you've got $9,000 in this example of taxable income every month. So it's $108,000 a year. And whatever tax bracket that puts you in, there's nothing you can do about it. Right. I mean, I guess you could donate to charity. You could do other tax planning, but as far as changing your income, that's not, I guess you could stop taking Social Security, but I don't know why people would do that. So again, so that's what you're getting at. I would call it a little bit of a forced situation. And so the lump sum, the potential there to strategically take distributions and even convert that lump sum into a Roth is a lot more flexibility when it comes to tax implications. Now, I'm not saying everyone on this show should do that. This show is not advice. For compliance purposes, we want to give you advice, but we want to do that one-on-one. We don't want to do that via YouTube. You shouldn't take any advice via YouTube, by the way, for anybody.
Yeah, there's some good food for thought out there, but not specific advice.
Yeah, that's so good. This show is for informational and educational and hopefully a little bit of entertainment purposes. So again, but just recognize that the tax implications of your decision, and again, this is a scary part on a lot of these decisions, Corey, they're irrevocable. So if you choose that single life pension payout and then a year from now you want to change your mind, many times you can't change your mind. Yeah, so you got to be confident in your decision. And then the fourth piece that everyone should know that has a pension is that you need to integrate this into your broader financial plan. Like I mentioned already, Corey, your pension is not your plan. It's part of your plan. So like you already talked about, you have to understand how your pension is going to interact with Social Security, your required minimum distributions, IRAs, charitable giving, estate planning, all that stuff. This is just one piece of the puzzle, but it is not the puzzle. So it's a very critical, important decision, but you have to integrate it into your bigger plan, not make your pension your plan like you talked about. If you got $1.5 million in a lump sum, that is not a financial plan. That's a piece of a plan.
That's right. Yeah, that's really good because the Social Security timing, Jake, those decisions, that's a big one. Particularly if somebody's taking a monthly annuity or if they have a lump sum. I mean, again, we could go back and forth on it, Jake, but I mean, it is so customized. It is very customized. And I'm glad that you've said this. And I just want to reiterate it, that it could be helpful to understand what other people that work for your employer have done and, what they've learned from doing that. But you should not make the assumption that the path that someone else took is automatically what you should do, because it gets very, very personalized and custom.
Right. All right, Corey, you ready for the myth?
Let's do it.
Here's a myth I want you to talk about. The pension decision is easy. Just pick the monthly amount that looks the biggest. What do you think about that?
I think that's a gross oversimplification, Jake, and it's a myth because it's not that simple. That's like, the way I see it, Jake, that's like saying, well, just go buy the highest yielding stocks as an investment strategy. Like, that's not a strategy. That's an idea, but it's not a strategy. It's like there needs to be a lot more scrutiny involved than just choosing the one that's going to give you the most money today.
Give me the bigger one, Corey. That's what I want. That's not the good way to do it. So your pension is a potential to be a multi-million-dollar asset. And as a result, our argument is that it deserves the same level of analysis and customization as the rest of your multi-million-dollar portfolio. Maybe you say, Jake, I don't have a multi-million-dollar portfolio. All I got is this pension. That's fine, but it needs attention. It needs
don't
analysis.
Just take the one option that seems obvious.
It says, give me the big one. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
That's what some people think, though. And that's what we're trying to bust that myth. So here's the key. You're not just choosing income. You're designing your financial plan, right? Or your future. So again, you don't want to just, it's a no-brainer. Jake, I'm going to get 4,000 with this one and 3 with the other one. I'm going to get the 4. I want the money now. Well, you have to understand that the actuaries behind these pension calculations have done the math. And there's a trade-off for that higher monthly amount, or there's a trade-off for the lump sum, right? You're taking the risk into your own hands, or you're hiring an advisor to help you manage that lump sum. Or you've got to stay disciplined not to spend that whole lump sum in 5 years, because that's another problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Yes.
Have you seen people fly through a lump sum?
Yes.
Sadly, yeah, it happens.
Yes.
It happens.
People that spend more because if somebody gets, Jake, back to the example you used earlier, at $1.5 million pension payout that gets, maybe they roll it into a retirement account so there's no taxes immediately. That might be the most money that somebody ever has in any account. And if somebody's never had anything close to that, they might assume that that's going to be enough to carry them, to and through retirement comfortably. But I think that people come to find that, $100, just like $100,000, just like $1 million doesn't go as far today as it did 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And that's the reason that you really need to be discerning about it. But you also want to understand, like, if you take a lump sum option of $1.5 million in the example that you used earlier, Jake, what is a real predictable income stream that you can expect to draw from that comfortably? And recognizing that might need to change. Like, that's the way to look at that decision versus I've got plenty of money, I can buy whatever I want.
Right, Corey. Like, this is a sad reality. This is why people that win the lottery are broke. This is why courts, when they award settlements, they structure them a lot, because sadly,
protects people from themselves.
Yeah, because sadly, let's say somebody was making 80 grand a year, which is good money, right? They're making 80 grand a year, Corey, but they retire and they've got $2 million in their pension. Well, they've never had, like you said, that kind of money in their account at any one time. And so they think that they are quote unquote rich and that the money will never run out, because $2 million, Corey, it's a lot of money to them. And they see all those zeros in their account statement. They're like, I'm never going to be able to spend all this. But you know what happens, Corey? They spend it all.
Yeah. And don't forget, it's a joint account with Uncle Sam, like we've talked about, right?
Yeah, it's taxed. Yeah, you're $2 million in an IRA is not $2 million. Sadly, it's not. So, and the sad reality is, Corey, we can't control that. I mean, clients need to be adults. We can advise them and give them guidance. But if a client calls up today and says they want their $1 million all sent to them, we can't withhold that. We can't tell them no. It's their money.
Right. It's their money.
We'll ask them what's going on. You sure you want to do this? We'll try to give you some guidance, but in the end, it's their money. So you've got to be careful with that. If you do the lump sum, you've got to understand discipline. That's even more of a reason to have a wealth advisor and meet with a wealth advisor and meet often, so that you make sure that you're not overspending. And you say, you know what, Jake, I don't want to leave my kids $3 million. That's fine. But we'll show you what a slower spend down is, because the last thing we want is a client to be 80 years old, Corey, and broke. Then what? Then you're moving in with your kids. And people normally don't want to do that. No,
typically they don't. I think that, yeah, you're bringing up a lot of good points here today, Jake, but it is it's a big picture decision. It's important for people to think it all the way through. And I think also, though, Jake, it is, if somebody's honest with themselves, if they recognize that, maybe they've had spending challenges or spending issues in their life, I think that as fiduciaries, as advisors, we have to take that into consideration too. But a lot of that comes with just being honest. Like, if somebody recognizes, like, you know what, I do have a propensity to spend money. Maybe I want to make sure that I'm protected in retirement. Let's take that into consideration. And that's not something that a math problem is going to solve for you.
That's right. That's a good point. All right. So to recap this, Corey. So number one, your payout options have lasting, many times permanent consequences. So just be careful with that. If you're married, your spouse's future needs to be factored in. This isn't a decision you make in a vacuum. And even if you're not married, if you have kids, even if you don't have any kids, even if you're single, Corey, and no kids, no family, you have to understand the implications of your decision and what's going to happen to this money if something happens to you. Taxes, they need to be taken into consideration. They can quietly erode that income. Like you said, $2 million is not $2 million in an IRA. And then your pension should align with your overall financial plan. It is not your plan. The pension is not a plan. It needs to align with your overall wealth management strategy. So again, with us, Corey, we're both chartered retirement planning counselors. We've had thousands of meetings about these types of topics. Just take time to meet with us. We'll go through it. We'll go over the numbers and we'll help you make a good decision. So don't do it alone. I today want to offer our audience, Corey, even if you're a client, of course you get this, but if you're not a client and you want a complimentary pension decision audit, we'll call it PDA, or a planning session, let Luke know. Just email Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com and he'll get you access to my calendar or Corey's. We'll do a complimentary PDA Isn't that is that public display
Public display of affection.
But we're
It's
calling
complimentary.
it a pension decision audit.
I like it.
We're going to do a complimentary pension decision audit or planning session to help you make a good decision. Again, this is a decision you don't need to go out alone. You want to go into any personal updates before we wrap up today's show?
Sure. Let's do it. Personal updates, Jake. I don't have a lot. Just feel like, June came and went pretty quickly.
That was your big month. That was your party month, Corey.
It wasn't my party month. Yeah, we did have a lot going on. Lots of fun. But, we're kind of rolling into July now. It is, what kind of blew my mind, Jake, is that I realized today that officially today we're closer to 2050 than we are the year 2000.
Oh.
How's that one feel? Let that one sink in for a little bit.
That's kind of weird,
The
Corey.
future's here, right? It's time to plan. But I actually did find myself thinking about that today. But no, I think that the biggest update I have in my personal life, Jake, is that I installed a new car seat in my wife's car, which is I feel like is a rite of passage into parenthood, is dealing with those car seats. Never easy. What's up with you?
Is that hard to do?
Yeah, it's complicated. It's never it's not as simple as you would think it would be. And it's like getting those in and out of the car is a real pain. You want to get
You don't
it
leave
in
it
and
in
not mess with
permanently?
it.
You're not going to leave it in there?
Never coming out.
You're going to take it out when you take the baby out?
This car seat will stay in the car. We had one that the actual car seat could come out of the car and it could convert into a stroller. So you could just pop the wheels out, which was really nice. But now she's getting too big for that. So now you've got to keep a big stroller and the car seat in the car.
Jeez. All right. Well, good luck with that.
Lots of stuff for a little person.
That's a lot of stuff. With me, I'm excited, Corey. I don't have any travel plans. Credit to me.
Yeah, you got to be excited about that.
I think I'm doing some day trips to Tulsa, but nothing, no planes, no hotel, no Ubers, not doing any of that. So I'm real excited. I'm real excited. I don't have any of that going on. My backyard is getting close to finishing up. It's taken longer than expected, not because of my contractor. I think just things with the city delayed it and whatnot. So, and weather maybe. So, but I'm excited. Rachel and I really like spending out time in our backyard. So I'm hopeful that wraps up soon. Golf game's coming around. So I started the season off really slowly, but I've been playing quite a bit better lately. So I'm excited to get some rounds of golf in. And I like playing in the hot weather because my golf ball goes further.
That's right.
I don't like a wet golf course. I like a dry, firm, because I get a lot of roll. And the ball goes further. That's what I want, and I'm good with that. So
does that take you back to your West Texas golf?
That's right. I welcome the heat. Bring it. I'll drink lots of water out there, and I will hit the golf ball further, and I'm okay with that.
I love it.
So, well, thank you, Corey, as always, for joining me, and thank you all for tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website at www.falconwealthadvisors.com and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.